Okay, I'm here with Nousli, who works for Living Water Guatemala, and she lives in Antigua,
Yes.
Guatemala, and lately she's been doing a lot of the Living Water projects, which are along the Pacific coast. In the past, she's also done projects for Living Water in the highlands of Guatemala. But I wanted to ask her about the Living Water wells that Living Water constructs for these poor villages and communities. Nousli, why is it important to have a Living Water well in one of these poor communities?
Oh, there are so many different aspects. I'll mention just a couple. One of them is that is a life-changing project. One of the things is that most of the people have their handle wells next to the latrines or just a couple of meters away from the latrines. So they are basically drinking that contaminated water that is mixed with everything that gets in that latrine. So that's why most of the time we get to the villages where the kids are just used to have diarrhea, vomiting once in a while, and that's just the way they live or they try to survive. Sometimes the people who make a little bit more money, they buy water, but then they make very little and they have to save some money just to buy water. In baggies or just different ways. So instead of spending that money just buying water, they would have more money to buy actually food, that it's something that they really need. And besides all of that, I think that it's a great way to share the gospel. That is one of the most important things in life, just to have that living water in your heart. And that is a great way to share about God's love.
And that's part of the dedication ceremonies too for these water wells, is that the gospel is presented.
Oh yeah, and it is not just presented, but also in every ceremony we share a Bible with at least one Bible per family. Most of the time we try to take at least one per adult, but when we have big crowds, we only give one per family. So we are not just telling them like it's good if you read the Bible or it's good if you grow up in Christ, but actually we are giving them the way to do it. So we are a great organization to try to change lives.
Can you talk about some of the problems that you have seen in the past that these villages go through because they have tried to survive on contaminated water?
Oh yeah, we have had so many really sad stories. I'll share with you one that happened in 2014 when we were drilling a well in Champerico, in a village from Champerico. It was really sad. When I was teaching in the afternoon the lessons with the women about parasites and diarrhea, so one of the women just stood up and said, "Can I share with you what happened in our village?" And for the rest of you who are here and are not like close to the place where we live, just pay attention to what she's saying, because she's telling you the truth and it's really important. So she started with this. A baby just had passed away a couple of months ago due to parasites, and the way it happened, it's really sad. They said that the mom used to be afraid about giving the pills to get rid of parasites or the drops to the little babies to get rid of the parasites. So she was usually afraid about giving that to the kids because they usually cry or they get vomits or vomiting or diarrhea or different things after having those drops or pills or whatever. So she never gave anything to her babies. And that little baby was around 8 months old, and she said that she realized that the baby started just getting sick little by little. So one Friday the baby was more sick than usual, and the baby stopped eating. She just didn't want to eat anymore, and she was still breastfeeding. But after a while she just decided to wait until Monday to take her to the doctor. But then when she took her to the doctor, the baby was already getting purple. And they say that just on the way going to the hospital, the baby passed away. And it was really sad that in those moments when the baby passed away and they finally got to the doctor, to the closest hospital or clinic, all the worms were coming out of her nose, her ears, and all the open areas that she had. So
You're talking about blood coming out?
no, actually the parasites,
Oh.
the worms were coming out. So it is really sad just to think about the way the baby passed away.
Yeah. And these people try to survive on their current water supply is through creeks or rivers or very shallow hand-dug wells that are wide open. And you mentioned earlier that animals and sometimes people might fall down them.
Yeah, we had once in a community where we had another sad story when a man falling. He was drunk and he had just a hard life about drinking, and he used to be just drunk most of the time, and nobody realized that he fell in the well. And the family realized after a while that they started realizing that the water was weird, different. It was just disgusting. It was smelling really bad, and they had been drinking out of it. So they realized that the body was there in the water, just really, really, really bad.
And they started getting sick, and it sounds like cholera, right?
Oh yeah, a couple of members of the family passed away due to the contaminated water that they had. And sometimes it's maybe not a lot of people just fall in. That happens once in a while. But then frogs fall in, animals fall in, because they are just open and nobody takes care of them at night, or they don't watch that animals don't fall in. So, and most of the time they have leeches because the latrine is next to the hand-dug well, so everything just filtrates, and it's really, really bad water.
So when Living Water digs a well, they make sure not to have latrines nearby.
Oh yeah, one of the rules is that we must have at least 35 meters away from the closest latrines in order to drill a well.
Can you tell me how things look different in a typical community where a living water well has been produced after about, say, 6 months?
Oh yeah, I had the opportunity to start working in a new area with living water. So at the beginning, people were not trusting a lot in our work because we were just a new organization in the area. Nobody knew about us. And so the first trips were kind of hard because we didn't have a lot of support from the communities. But after 6 months, all the people were just finding out where the places where we were drilling, because they realized that their kids stopped having a lot of diarrhea, vomiting, just their quality of life improved a lot. So they didn't spend any money again buying water. And it was just so grateful and just a huge satisfaction to see the people making lines in order to get water from the first wells that we drill, and people in motorcycles or in their bicycles or just carrying their buckets or water jars from the old water companies. It was just a great experience, and I can tell you that the quality of their lives improved a lot after having their living water wells.
And it sounds like a lot of seeds have also been planted on because of the gospel being presented.
Oh yeah, every time that we have a ceremony, we share Bibles, and on every lesson we also share about God, and so it is something that is constant. And one thing that I haven't mentioned is that besides drilling the well, actually we take care of the wells. So we have a maintenance team, and every year we go to check the well, to check different parts that need to be treated, and so we make sure that everything is just running well. And if the well presents any trouble, we just go to the place and they don't have to pay anything to our maintenance team or to anybody. So that is one of the great things about living water, and we do that just thanks to God and due to the people that support us with donations and their work too.
Amen. Well, thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.